Hi, my name is Sandy Eichel. I speak and write about leaving a life of should. And today we're talking about something that affects most people, and that is trauma. Traumatic experiences are those experiences that threaten one's safety and stability, and they can cause psychological, mental, and emotional stress or harm. Thankfully, we have a brave soul with us today, Olivia Seehofer, who is willing to share her experience through trauma and what she did to process that and how it affected her life. Thanks for being here, Olivia. Would you tell us a little bit about what happened to you?
Yeah, so when I was 15, I was raped repeatedly by the same man, and then again when I was 18 by a different man, and I ended up facing both of them in a trial.
Wow, that is a lot. How did you feel like those experiences affected you or shaped you?
So a lot of different things happened. I ended up developing an eating disorder, had PTSD, a lot of depression and anxiety, and then I ended up entering two really negative relationships to kind of make the trauma normal and make it feel like it was okay.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
What was the pivotal moment for you where you feel like you started to really process your trauma or get on the other side of it? Or was it just sort of incrementally throughout your life?
So it's basically been like a stretch of time frame, a period with a lot of therapy. I actually ended up going into treatment for my eating disorder, and that is where all of the trauma work started, of talking about it and working through it.
Yeah, and the talking about it really helps a lot when you do actually put words to your trauma. I know a lot of us, you had to face your attackers in court, but a lot of times people don't tell anyone about what happened to them, or they're not even realized that the traumatic experience was that traumatic until later. But speaking it really does help kind of that first step as far as getting over it. Did you find that to be the case?
Yeah, most definitely. It's nice to know that you're not alone, because once you actually speak up about it, then other people tend to start sharing too, and it can be a very lonely thing to feel.
Yeah, and we're not alone, right?
No.
So many of us have experienced traumatic events, and one of the things that a famous author has said is that shame only exists in the darkness. We have to talk about it to be free of it. Did you feel like this experience made you feel shameful, like you had done something wrong?
Yeah, I had a lot of shame around it, of like I was the one that caused it. Would have been some way I could have stopped it, and that was dirty and gross, and just that's not the case. Like, you realize once you start working on it that it's not your fault, you didn't cause it. Like, no matter what age you are, no matter what you're wearing, it's never your fault.
Right, yeah, there's nothing that any of us do to deserve being treated that way or the trauma that we experience. And yet a lot of times we feel like it's our fault and that we could have done something to change it. And then the daggers go inward, right? As opposed to us being able to process it and to move through it. So in this process of healing, what positive things came about for you through this? I mean, obviously it's a horrible experience, and I'd never want anyone to go through it.
Yeah.
But being on the other side of it and continuing to work through it, what positive things have come along?
You definitely have a lot more empathy and more sympathetic for other people, like just in general with the world, because almost everybody on the planet has gone through something, and you don't know what they're going through, what they have gone through. So to always have kindness, and if someone is wanting to talk about something, that you're open to listening and being supportive of that.
Yeah, it really develops empathy and compassion when you've been through something, and that's just it. We never know what other people are going through. Everyone's fighting their own battle, and sometimes it comes out at us as anger, frustration, and it has nothing to do with us.
Right.
It happens to, do with their past experiences of trauma, and maybe they're at a different place in their journey. So yeah, I like that a lot. One of the things that you've told me before, Olivia, is you were saying that it took you a while to realize that you are worthy of love, that you are worthy of good things. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So it definitely was not something that happened overnight.
Right, yeah.
It took a lot of years of therapy, and sometimes it can still be a process, because trauma affects your whole entire life.
Yeah.
But to work on that and to realize that, hey, you're not some broken, damaged human being.
Right.
You're worthy of love, regardless if you feel like you're broken, because broken crayons still color. Like you can
love
still,
that.
you can still function, and you can still you deserve to have a good life and be happy and all the love and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what would you tell people out there who are hearing this and maybe for the first time are thinking, something like that happened to me. It wasn't maybe exactly like that, but I feel like I have trauma inside of me that I've never really talked about. What would you tell them as far as either encouragement or advice?
I would say find somebody that you can trust and confide in and kind of start the conversation about it, of talking about sharing a little bit, or even reaching out to see a therapist if that's more comfortable. Talking about it definitely does help, and being able to work through it and process it, because it affects your whole entire life, whether you realize it or not. And it feels like a relief to actually talk about it and not be the only one with that burden.
Yeah, and you will get through it. I think that's the other thing to mention too, is that sometimes it feels like it's so heavy, and there's no way you can ever get through this trauma, but that's the good news about it, is that you will get through it and you're never alone. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Olivia. Really appreciate it. And if you are hearing this and thinking that this is something that resonates with you, we encourage you to do that. Find the people you trust and talk about it with someone. If you can't talk about it at first, write about it. Get it out of you so that you can look at it and examine it, and it doesn't have to control you.